your phones, your cars, everything you want to upgrade, no? Because you can see what is happening around the world. Correct. They have not been exposed to the contemporary art that is happening in the world.
Only exposure to something changes a mindset.
Correct.
So we are struggling with that on a daily basis, where we are trying to educate our clientele that this is what needs to be done.
You design public works. So what is that one thing you keep in mind while designing public works?
I think that art should be there. It should be revolutionary and it should be something that shocks the public.
There are occasions where you have to allow something, an opportunity or a chance to get used to it, to allow your mind to absorb the thought process. And what Arzan is saying is absolutely true.
The DesignFM, supported by BirlaNu Parador and Asahi India Glass Limited, curated by Eztablish, in association with FOAID.
Welcome to the DesignFM. I'm Fardeen Bamgara, your host, and today with me I have Mrs. Zarir Mullan Arzan Khambatta. Zarir and Arzan have known each other for the last 40 years, and their lives and professions have overlapped across the decades. Instead of me introducing them, I'm going to let Arzan introduce Zarir, and Zarir introduce Arzan today.
Okay. So who's starting? You start.
I will. Though Arzan needs no introduction, an architect, a sculptor, and an incredible human being and a very dear friend, Arzan Khambatta.
Oh, thank you. So, I can say same pinch also, but I have known Zarir, of course, 45 years almost. From everyone who I've kept in touch with, I work most with him because I feel that his design ethos, the way he works, the way he handles his client is absolutely the way I work with mine. And so we gel together on a lot of projects, and Touchwood doing excellently well, and I love going to his office off and on for work and for coffee also.
That's amazing. So I want to start by asking both of you all, what is the line that you all see and you all define between art and architecture within your practices?
So if I can take that, so I've always said to my staff and my people who work alongside with me that architecture actually is a combination of art and engineering. So it begins initially as art because you're doing something creative, but finally it has to be executed, implemented, and it has to perform. So there is a great deal of engineering that goes behind the art itself. So it's stunning because it's the perfect marriage of art and engineering.
I agree with him because I remember I did my thesis on sculpture and architecture because I was doing both at that time when I was in college. And I remember someone saying that if you're only drawing buildings, then you're only painting pretty pictures. The thing is how to make them, how to implement everything that you've drawn. So that's where the engineering comes in, and I feel it is so well connected to sculpture. I can draw a sculpture of a man 30 feet, 40 feet standing probably on one toe, which is what I do. Now, if I cannot balance that fellow on one toe and I put a support there, the whole sculpture is gone.
True.
So that also is, to me, architecture, structure, everything. And both of them are so similar. Both of them are 3D arts. Both of them react to sunlight. Everything. Architecture has a user function. That's
completely integrated.
Completely integrated.
And I'm sure that Arzan's training as an architect assists him with setting the engineering for his sculptures.
All right.
You know, to ensure that it's balanced correctly, it doesn't topple, because he does some seriously large pieces.
Correct.
And you have to ensure that they're stable in every respect.
And you do design for the public spaces as well.
Oh yes, of course. Oh, yeah. Currently, there's one which will open for Mumbai Police,
right.
And that is like point load. Okay. Now, because such a big company is involved and because the police are involved, and so they kept on calling in structural engineers to keep on reviewing my work, and they said, "No, not this thickness. This thickness will do this foundation." I said, "Baba, I've been doing it since 40 years now. And I have done cantilevers. These are point loads, you know." So I said, please leave them. I had to convince them a lot to leave everything to me, and touch wood, everything has stayed in place, even if it's 30 years old now.
That's true. So both of you all also have collaborated on a lot of projects together. Like your works are there in
Absolutely.
a lot of the projects. What has been your experience working with each other professionally beyond your friendship?
So, you know, surprisingly, I actually recall, I don't know if Arzan does, the very first project that I undertook as a incredibly junior person 30 odd years back, Arzan had done a sculpture for me.
1993.
In
Bajaj Bhavan.
No, Oh yeah, Bajaj
Bhavan was
also.
first.
So yeah, but then at that time I had not
Correct.
started my own
Correct.
practice.
Your own career, nahi, not your own career.
But even there in Matunga,
Yes.
it was the first project on
Yes.
the rooftop.
Yeah,
He had
correct.
done a sculpture for me. So from my very first project, Arzan has been directly or indirectly associated with me, and even till today, we are working on currently multiple projects. We are handing over a large bungalow right now in Ahmedabad, where he's provided a sculpture.
Alright.
We're doing a project in Dubai, an office project in Dubai, where he is, I think, in the next 15 days, probably going there for an installation. The minute I saw the photograph, when he shared the photograph with me, I could pinpoint the position where I wanted that sculpture on my site. And the way it has been integrated, I assure you, if you see the sculpture, you will think that he has conceived, designed and executed it for that
For
project.
that place, yes.
But you've designed the space around the sculpture.
It's the moment I saw the sculpture, I knew that these two were married for each other, meant for
That
each
is
other.
really
you know?
amazing.
Yeah. So it was remarkable.
So to me, the brief, most important. The brief has to be very clear. I mean, throughout my work pattern, there are probably, I can point out 2 works which have not gone exactly as the way I had imagined it, because the brief that came was through multiple people. Like if there's a joint family or something. Here, what is important is that irrespective of the client, he has understood exactly what the client's tastes are, what he is doing around, and he knows that my sculpture can fit.
Correct.
So his brief is very important, and that comes absolutely clear as a stamped paper. And from that I can visualize something which is there, whether it should be an abstract or it should be a human figure, what should be the length, what should be the exact material that goes there, you know. So that is very important, and his drawings, everything is so clear, I can immediately sort of create something around that.
Walk us through your process, right?
So
Once
basically,
you get the brief, like
okay,
how
so he
does
shows
it-
me a space. Like for example, we'll talk about the Ahmedabad one. There was a courtyard there, and he showed me a space, and he was very sure he didn't want something coming from the ground. He wanted something to float in the center, which I was also okay with, because sometimes pieces look wonderful when they are balanced in the center, you know. And so we designed this overall pyramid, which was made out of several smaller pyramids, integrated by triangles, 3D triangles, and there's about 60 pieces of them hanging at different lengths which form an inverted pyramid. And
That's
the
amazing.
point comes down, and you can imagine when the light falls on it, the shadows and everything, and it just worked out perfectly well. So I understood what he wanted. I saw his architecture, it was very geometrical. I said, let's go with it. In that square courtyard that is there, we had a plate on top. We did a lot of exactly calibrating each cable so that every piece sort of
Lines
sits
up.
there and one doesn't go out of place, you know. So it fit in very well. I mean, and it sort of adhered to his vision completely.
That's amazing.
So you know, when we approach a project, my discussion with the client actually happens at a later point.
okay.
First, as a designer, I need to be clear in my mind for which space I am looking for what. Then we identify an artist. Then we discuss with the artist, especially if we are commissioning something.
Correct.
If it's something that you're picking up ready and you're setting it into a project, that's a different matter. And once I'm clear with the artist, then I approach the client. So, see, it's very clear in my mind that it's not the client's decision to make, really speaking, understand what I'm trying to say, that we are able to visualize what would look best in a particular space. It is our duty to understand that and then to explain to the client what we have in our mind, and 9 times out of 10, the client sees your perspective and goes with the flow.
But Zarir, just to ask you off that, clients don't always budget for art in projects. So how does it work during the design process? Like, how do you make sure that, because you keep art as an integral part of your design.
Absolutely.
So how does it work? Do you convince the client, or how's the back and forth that happens?
So I'll break my answer into 2 parts. In the current day situation, today, there's a lot of exposure. People have understood. If you see the footfall in the art fair today,
Correct.
and compare it to the exposure to art perhaps 15 years back, today's scenario is very different. Today people are educated. People were always educated. People are now more exposed.
Correct.
With the electronic media, with the internet, information is so easily accessible. There are times when clients come to us with images of certain other artists, maybe whom we have not heard of. So it's become a lot easier today.
Okay.
But 15 years earlier, we used to struggle because clients their budgets used to be primarily exhausted by the time the project is over. And then when you tell them to put a certain part of the investment into art or into artifacts or into sculptures, you could see the reluctance. So we over a period of time tried to kind of educate them that this is as necessary, because without art, any project, I believe, would be soulless.
Correct.
I mean, you'd have beautiful four walls, but what beyond that? So luckily, we've been fortunate that majority of our clients understand where we come from. They understand what we are trying to propose, what we are trying to recommend to them, and that the best interest of the project is what we have at heart. And 9 times out of 10,
It works.
It works, yeah.
That's beautiful. There's this emotion that art evokes, right? And considering that you all work on a lot of residential places where the art goes, how is it that you understand while designing that this is what the client will resonate to, considering you bring it to the client much later into the conversation?
So I'll tell you. So basically with me, I mean, I have a show every 5 years, 3 years, as in when I'm ready with a new concept. But mostly 99% of my work is commissioned work, where I see the space and then I design. Okay.
Correct.
So I keep saying this, and touch wood, very luckily that most of my clients, when they start off and when I'm conceptualizing and when they're talking to me about what they want, they become friends and close friends even before the project ends.
All right.
So they have poured out a lot of their thoughts, everything into the piece that they want. And then I get to know them very well. And then the piece goes exactly the way they want. I'll just give you 1 or 2 examples. There is one small piece I did for someone who coincidentally had the same birthday as mine. So we connected better. And this was for her father. There were 3 brothers and sisters who said, we want to do this for our dad. Now, I do a lot of men reading, just sitting in a corner there, huge size, small ones, something that goes in a study sort of thing. And I drew it out. He's saying it's perfect, but he sits on an office chair. You see, he never sits on one of the sofas and all. So then I put that in as to his posture and all that. I asked for a few photographs. Where does he sit? Near the sunlight, near here, there. He has a small table where he has his coffee cup and all that. So I integrated that. Now, I didn't only do a man who reads, but I did the father who exactly reads in that same style. Like somewhere right now I'm doing a center table for a wildlife enthusiast, photographer. So he loved the species and all that. So I said, okay, fine. I said, let's integrate with it. He wanted to know whether he should have a sculpture separate and a table, or can I make a table of the sculpture? I said, fine, let's do that. So like the trees of the savannas growing out, we've got these multi-level glasses and very rough, like to sort of go with the African theme. I've done the animals in joint blocks of wood.
Okay.
So, so you do that, and then exactly 99% of the time, it's exactly what that fellow is looking out for, and probably more. Probably more,
So, considering again, coming back to both of you all, just to briefly tell the audience where your friendship began and what have been the highlights over give me 4 highlights over the last 4 decades.
I can give you 40.
We have time for 4. Give me 4.
So just to give you a background, both of us were in Academy of Architecture together. We were classmates, same class. And since both of us were from the other Pasi colony, he used to every morning fetch me in his car. We would drive down to college together. So he had this Land Rover.
Old Land Rover.
Old Land Rover, And I still remember every morning it's a diesel car. So he had to get the diesel heated up. So he had to press this button. We had to wait till the diesel got heated up. Then the car would start. So that's how our day began. And we'd get to college. And 5 years of architecture we spent very closely together with a bunch of other friends. It was the best 5 years of our lives.
I think so. Mine too. Absolutely.
The amount of fun we had alongside with the studies and the education, and architecture as a course. Oh, it's grueling. 5 years of a lot of work, but it's a creative line. Unlike maybe law or medicine, where there is so much to actually mentally study. What we had to work on were more projects.
Correct.
So it's more tangible things, So I think we, in spite of all the hard work,
Oh, yes.
we had a blast, and there were so many projects that you would do together as teams, not as individuals. So it's been excellent time, yeah.
So we used to get these projects which is we had to keep awake in nights, literally, in groups. So we would select one person's house and then camp there, and then sort of keep on working through the night. One person would sleep, another person would take over. There would be music. We would order food. Of course, there was no Swiggy and all that, so we had to literally had very few selective places where we could eat and all that. But just anything and everything went. We used to go on college trips. I can't
Study
imagine
tours.
study tours.
Study
I
tours.
can't imagine. I was talking to someone the other day as to how we used to travel in those dirty, dusty trains in the heat, and we used to sleep on the floor. Literally take paper sometimes because the berths used to be full.
See, you have to understand it was a college.
Everything.
It was a college tour.
Anything
so
went.
Everything had to be done within a certain budget.
Budget, right,
So-
yeah.
But I think all of us have been through that. But they were fun trips. Fun trips. There was.
We used to keep on going to Khandala because we had a bungalow there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we used to go there, and then I remember there was some creativity workshop in Lonavala where we used to go. So any time we would get an opportunity to travel because of architecture work, we would do that. And we used to be, I think, the most notorious class, but we also did the very best, I think, in terms of the other classes. So if you see the architects who
The
came out
quality
from
of
that
work,
class, the
yes.
quality of work and all that is very superior, you know. So that everything put together, that little bit of, it was not misbehavior, it was just mischief. It was complete mischief. Even in class, every day, we used to just laugh.
And it was
you know.
a small college. So, we have 5 classes, first year, second year, third year, fourth year and fifth year. And it was, the students from the first year knew the students from the fifth year. So it was a very close family kind of environment, And the friendships that we
that shows.
forged
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I mean, I
Tremendous.
think even today, a lot of us are in touch.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And our college was excellent. You know, when we started, our building, academy, not the building that is there right now, but previously it was a cotton go down.
Okay.
It was a spinning and a cotton go down for khadi work and all that. So we had these brick structures with metal meshes. So you could hear this professor teaching in the other class here, there. There used to be a banyan tree, a canteen and all that. So even that atmosphere in the
atmosphere.
first year was superb. You know, you never felt like you went to an institution or something
It
like
was
that.
not like a
Very easygoing.
structured classroom.
more
if you know what I
easygoing,
mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we, at that time, all the 5 founding members were there who made the college, and they, I think, made a difference in the way they ran the college and all that. There was a lot of personal sort of, interaction with the students and all that. A lot of good stuff happening.
That's really amazing. All right. You're designing projects, India, Dubai, across. What is this one common thread in design which is something that you're proud of in all your designs?
Well, I'm proud of pretty much everything I do. But having said that, I understand your question. Every architect or every artist for that matter, in your trade, you start developing your material vocabulary, if you know what I mean. So when you walk into a project of a particular architect, you can see his design unfolding, the materiality, the kind of textures, the clientele that we cater to. So I try that all our projects come out with a certain kind of a premium appearance to it. I find it a little difficult to adjust with an overly casual aesthetic.
Okay.
So everything that we do is slightly more plush. Perhaps that's also a little to do with the kind of target audience that we are catering to. And yeah, that would pretty much be it. So it's very, very understated, sophisticated kind of undertone to all the projects that we would do.
Understood. So Arzan, then considering this is curated to individual or an individual family, you design public works. So what is that one thing you keep in mind while designing public works, considering the fact that a large audience is, you have to appeal to a large audience. So what are the considerations while designing something like that?
So I'll tell you what. Number one, primarily, is first of all to adhere to the client's brief. The client has to be happy. That is number one. Secondly, I feel that we need to show the public who is walking on the road, who doesn't go into the galleries, what contemporary art is. I think because we've kept them away from galleries and think that they are not able to understand modern art, you see the kind of work they put up, those fiberglass pieces in the city and all that. And I have spoken to corporators, saying, nahin, public ko samajh mein nahi aayega jo aap kar rahe hai. But that is not it. I keep on asking them, your phones, your cars, everything you want to upgrade, no? Because you can see what is happening around the world. Correct. They have not been exposed to the contemporary art that is happening in the world. So there is a blockage, and that's why we churn out the same old stuff. I would go out of the way to say, I want contemporary stuff, I want stuff which is, as long as it's not hurting anyone, no, I think that art should be there. It should be revolutionary and it should be something that shocks the public. Long time back, myself and two other artists, we did an installation, temporary, on VT station platform, okay, made out of mouse traps, where there were a long-standing project. It was a 3-month project where we photographed these orphanage children and their dreams and whatnot, and they wrote in inside what they wanted, and we built a whole thing and put it on the platform. Okay. The amount of curses we have got for people that chalne ka jagah nahi hai, ye nahi hai, wo nahi hai, but 20-30 people from 100 would come and watch and see that, you see. So now, to them, that statue and sculpture which is only of a person standing, and then to see this as art changes the perspective slightly. Correct. And we need to hit our public with contemporary works to change their perspective.
But that is true, no? With anything in life, only exposure to something changes a mindset.
Correct.
So we are struggling with that on a daily basis, where we are trying to educate our clientele that this is what needs to be done. Anything new that you are doing, it takes time. Everything cannot be love at first sight.
Correct.
There are occasions where you have to allow something, an opportunity or a chance, to get used to it, to allow your mind to absorb the thought process. And what Arzan is saying is absolutely true. In India, we come from an economy that was well underdeveloped. It's now developing, and soon enough will be a developed economy. So the journey that we have had, we've come from a lot of simplicity. So it takes time for the mindset of a person to open up, and this generation is rapidly doing that.
Interesting.
I'll just add to it. There's also a little scare when he's designing for a house like that. No, okay, if our guests come, what will they say? If they ask me, okay, what have you put here? What will he reply? There's also that apprehension. You know, so he has to understand the artwork, or he has to love it so much and said, I have put it here because I love it. You know, so that is also there. You know,
yeah, because art at the end of the day is very subjective.
True.
Okay. I also want to come back to the both of y'all. I believe there's a piece of yours that is very close to Zarir and Seema both. It is what you had gifted them when their son was born. Could you tell me a little more about that piece?
So,
do you remember?
Yeah, of course. It's there on his
my table.
It's there on his table.
Absolutely.
And that is the time when I used to still work with my own hands. 12, 15 years I worked with my own hands. And then slowly, when the pieces grew, I started getting helpers and all that. So I remember this, I took a gas torch and I cut it, and it's basically a female, a male, very abstract, stick figure form with a pram and a little baby inside. And all black, because that time I used to only use iron. So it's all gas cut iron, which is completely a form oriented piece, which I don't do too much anymore. But I remember that piece, of course.
Yeah. It's very close to our heart, and right there behind me on my table where I work.
And then I did one more for his house also, that standing lady and all that. Yeah, that was.
And there was a third he gifted me on my 50th birthday.
It was the Micropolis.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate to have multiple pieces of Arzan's.
That's really interesting. From both of you, I want to understand, what is the material you keep coming back to while designing?
So I'm sure Arzan's answers will be very different because he's talking from a sculptural background. But as an architect, as an interior designer, there are multiple materials for us. So whenever we are envisaging any project, I mean, whether it's the flooring, whether it's the wall cladding, whether it's the texture to materials, there are multiple things. And like I was saying, every architect will have his pet material palette or pet mood board, materials which he or she keep repeatedly going back to sculpt the overall space that they are working on. So, well, there are multiple materials, and I personally, for one, I'm into natural earthy colors, earthy tones. I play a lot with textures, whether it's of stone, whether it's of wood, whether it's of veneer, whether it's metal. So a lot of natural materials used in their naturalness.
Okay.
So if you know what I'm trying to say. So if it's marble, it's marble. It's not a tile that looks like marble.
Correct.
If it's wood, it's wood. Preferably not a laminate, you know.
Understood.
So we are playing with real materials, true materials, natural materials, and in their natural form.
All right. Arzan, what about you?
To me, I think all sorts of metals. And right now, one of my favorites is bronze casting, which I'm going into in a major way.
Okay.
But if you ask me only one, then I would still say iron.
Okay.
I just love cutting it, the textures we spoke about his piece, you know, that iron has something which is very, very, what you say, again, natural, like he says, you know, raw and natural. But I'm definitely breaking away from that and coming to more better finishes.
But if you evaluate your own career,
Yes.
you know, if you want to call it that, you must have started with with certain kind of materials.
Yes.
As your thinking evolves,
Correct.
as you grow as
Yeah.
an artist or an individual, your preference in materials
Correct.
change.
Yes.
There are some times when you're working, you're consciously trying to do something different.
Yeah.
Because for the last 10 years,
True.
you've done it in a particular
True.
way.
Correct.
Now you want to make a shift into a different kind.
Yes.
So, a lot of artists have seen the visual shifts in their career
Correct.
growth, if
Correct.
you want to call
Yeah,
it
yeah,
that.
of
you know.
course, yes.
So this happens with architects, with interior designers, with artists. We're all the time striving to do something different, something new.
Always, yes.
So when we embark on a new project, the first thing I do with my team is sit down and try to establish like a mood board.
Okay.
So where are we taking this project? What is the overall visual that we want to create on this project? And the client is very important. Don't misunderstand me. But I would rather that we set the tone or the vocabulary of the project, then we sit with the client and explain to them what we have in mind. See, as a professional, the thought process that we can bring to a project, I feel there's a lot more maturity, and we are able to look at things in a more holistic fashion. Somebody else may look at it, you know, item by item. We're not looking at it that way. When I'm looking at a flooring, I'm not looking at a flooring as a flooring in itself. I'm looking at the flooring with how it would reflect with everything else, all the other materials, the entire palette put together.
Okay.
So I would rather that all these characters of the story were put in by us. And then, yes, we present it to the client, but I would not like the narrative to be the other way around.
Head or heart? What leads the design process?
I think heart for me, still.
It's a mixed bag. No, it can't be. It can't be
it
so
can't be
black.
entirely this thing,
It
yeah.
can't be
There's
so
a
black.
percentage.
It
There's
can't
a
be so
percentage.
black or
Yeah.
white.
What's the first approach? And then,
Definitely heart.
It could start with the heart,
but it eventually.
but the head has to come in. Has to come in.
All right. Given no brief or constraint, what is it that you all each individually want to design or work on?
I would say try things which I've never done before.
Okay.
Which is what the people ask me, why are you so excited when you go to the studio? I love my studio. And it's always to pick up something and try something that I've not made before. You know, it's so funny. Sometimes a client calls you from somewhere, ye aapne kiya hai kya? Have you done this so you can do it? I say, Baba, I want to do it because I've not done it, you know. So that is what drives me. The literally the urge to do something that is not done and never done further, you know, let's say that way.
So in our context, it's like when you see a plot, when you're developing the first plans of a project. If it's an apartment, it's the space. When you go, you walk in, you walk around the apartment, it already starts talking to you. It starts telling you what needs to be done. Similarly, on a plot, when you see a plot, you see what's around you. Maybe there's a water body, maybe there isn't. Maybe there is another building coming up right next to you. So it is these things, these parameters, which actually guide you as to where the design ought to go. So honestly speaking, when you work with these thought processes in mind and do not approach the project with a preconceived thought process. So I would definitely not like to be told that I want my project to look like this.
Correct.
You follow what I'm trying to say? Why should a project look like that? Let the site determine what the project needs to look like.
Have a character of its
Let the needs, the requirements. Is it a primary home? Is it a secondary home? Is it an office space? If it's an office space, whose office space is it? Are you a lawyer? Are you in the creative line? So the space that you're designing has to reflect the personality of the individual as interpreted by the architect.
What is the one thing you would not compromise on when it comes to creativity?
Bad design.
That's very large.
No, my integrity. So again, this is something that I discuss very often with my team, with my staff, with my subordinates. That I again repeat, the client is most important. But the client has come to us for a reason. The client has come to us so that we can guide them in creating the best project for them. When I go to a doctor, if I go to a lawyer, I'm going to them to be able to handle my problem to the best of their professional ability. Similarly, when my client has come to me, they are expecting us to guide them, not the other way around. So, as important as their brief requirement and needs would be, I would like that firstly, are we satisfied with the design? And trust me, 9 times out of 10, when you are satisfied, your client is going to be satisfied. He is already seeing. I've had clients tell me that, when I'm looking at this design, I can see that a lot of work has happened behind the scene. It's not that you've just come up with this design overnight. There are multiple other designs, multiple other iterations that have been worked through to actually bring that design to this level. And when we are showcasing a design to a client, I feel that we showcase it reasonably comprehensively. So you will have AutoCAD drawings, you will have 3D renders, you would have a material board, you would have samples. We are trying our level best that when a client sees the design, he's able to completely comprehend what it's going to look like, trying to make it easy for them to be able to appreciate and give us a decision. So when they see the work behind it, and interiors and architecture today has become incredibly comprehensive. It's no more what a layperson could do or a housewife would do. You know what I'm trying to say? Maybe 20 years back, selecting the shade of color on the wall or selecting the drapes of your house was what people thought interiors was about. It's way more complicated, way more complicated. Yeah.
Just taking off on the integrity bit, I told you bad design is not tolerable. So I've been asked, what if you put a sculpture out there which you don't like? But that doesn't happen, because only until I am completely in love with that sculpture at the studio, it doesn't go out. So that discipline is so tremendous and sort of watertight that even if I see a piece of mine which I had done 30 years back, I know that that was the best I could do then, and I'm still convinced about it. So I don't go back and seek, I wish I had done this. That never happens.
But Arzan, even if a client were to give you a brief,
correct,
to do a sculpture which perhaps was not your interpretation or the way you would see it, yet you would still, even that design, you would interpret in your own individual style.
Yes, correct.
So, when we have a client who comes to us and would have us do a project in a style which is perhaps not our most preferred style, we may perhaps embark on that. But when we do it, we are still interpreting that in our way.
Own language, correct.
And delivering the best version of that design to them, hopefully, is what we believe. Yeah.
So, Zarir, when it comes to materials, for projects, what is the contextuality, or what is it that you keep in mind before specifying materials?
So, the most important thing to understand is where the project is located. I'll give you an example of a project that we did in Mathura. The climate there is quite extreme. So you have summers that go, to 45, 46, 47 degrees, and during the winter it comes down to single digits as well. To ensure that the entire project is comfortable and the electrical loads do not go up, we've recommended window systems, for example. there the glass that we specify, it's always a DGU, a double glazed unit, but the outer glass that we specify is a low E glass. So the thermal emission coming into the room is kind of cut out at the outer glass itself. The inner glass is a regular glass. So these are specific DGUs that we are recommending on all our projects. What this does is the heat penetration into a project primarily is through the windows. When you have reduced the heat penetration into a project with the sensible specification of the glass that you are utilizing on the project, it cuts down the heat load. Similarly, even the window sections we use something called thermal break sections. Thermal break sections are it's two sections which come together, which are held together with a EPDM gasket. So you have an outer section and an inner section. However hot the outer section gets, it does not transmit the heat to the inner section because there is a break. There is a thermal break, if you know what I mean. So when you intelligently specify materials, these make a dramatic difference in the overall the running cost of a project. Your air conditioning load comes down. You can do with far lesser tonnage initially to start with. The running cost of your air conditioning goes down. I remember when we were standing on the project while the project was being made, I could feel the difference in the inner temperature as compared to the outer temperature. We're doing walls which are double walled. So the exterior wall is double walled. You've got a cavity in between. However hot the outer wall gets, the heat is not transmitted to the inner wall. Similarly, in the winters, it works the other way around. However cold the outer wall gets, the cold is not transmitted to the inner wall.
That's interesting.
So when you are planning your project, and if these things are taken into account, these are seriously important things. When it comes to wooden flooring, we are very specific about what we recommend. We tend to use a lot more of engineered wooden floorings, but even there, if for example the wooden flooring, the wood has not been properly seasoned, if the wood has not been properly treated, the problem of termites is going to be there. So if there is, God forbid, little amount of leakage or dampness, your flooring could get ruined. If the wood is well treated, you could have a leakage problem, but perhaps the extent of infestation in the flooring would be reduced.
Understood.
So the quality of materials that you are specifying for any project ultimately determine how the project is going to shape up in the long run. Initially, everything looks good.
Okay.
True.
So Arzan, I mean, a lot of your sculptures are outdoor. So how is it that you consider the use of materials while designing? Like, is it location specific, as Zarir mentioned, or how do you make them all weather and long lasting?
So I'll tell you what, initially, like I said, when I started working on a very basic level, I didn't study art, correct? I just started. I used to do everything I used to do from iron. And iron is not something that lasts very well. But now there are excellent epoxy coats to sort of preserve the iron also. But as a rule now, whenever it's an outdoor sculpture, I start specifying either stainless steel or copper or bronze. So you keep away from iron altogether because like he said, it's not making it, for 1 year it will look pristine. But our weather and everything is so sort of treacherous that apparently the wear and tear happens. In copper, what happens? The patina happens. It's okay, perfectly all right.
Aging.
In bronze, it greens, perfectly okay. Steel becomes a little darker, which can be rebuffed, perfectly okay. So these are materials which are absolutely permanent. So I now only specify that. I stay away from iron and I completely deter clients who say, okay, we don't have a budget for steel also. I said, nee baba, you only go for steel, nothing lesser than that, you know.
But you know, Fardeen, talking about materials, all this knowledge and information comes to you with time, experience, and with initial mistakes that have been made, and you learn from them. It's something that you learn over a period of time, you know. So it's not like when we started 32 years back, we've all made our mistakes and we've learned from them, and our choices of materials have evolved from there, you know. So today when we are talking materials with a client, we are very clear what material has a longer life, how it endures the weather, the durability of a product. So we are very selective for the kind of materials we use on our projects.
Fair enough, with good cause.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to touch upon one last thing. When someone walks into a space designed by you or experiences a sculpture designed by you, what is that one feeling or emotion you want that person to feel?
In one word, I'd say, wow.
Okay.
That's what I would like. That's the expression I would like. So, very often on my projects, I actually prevent the client from coming to the project in the last 1 month.
Okay.
I tell the client that now, my request, please do not come to the project. Let us finish it in every way. Let us put up everything the way it is intended to. Because I want your reaction when you walk in after that period, once we have as a team set up the entire project, because that reaction that you see when they are walking in is incredible. Now, and that reaction cannot come if you are there every day. You're standing there, you're seeing, okay, today this has been put up, today that has been set up, today the carpets have been rolled out. I want them to come in after they've seen a vacant site, and when they're walking in, I want to see their reaction when they're walking in. The artifacts are set up, the art is on the wall, the rugs have been laid out, the sofas are in place, the cushions are in place. So it's a completely accessorized ambience that we have created, and the reaction that you see is phenomenal. It's like the birth of a child.
Satisfying. Arzan, what about
I think same
you?
here. Now, previously there used to be, so now I know clients who like to see the piece being done step by step. And again, before finishing, I don't show them because it is always wonderful to see the response. So even in my shows in Jangir, when I'm sitting down and there are people walking and I see the expression on their faces, it makes me very happy. Because they are responding to the piece in a way that it's meant to be respond. You know, they go away, they go far, they probably sort of look at it from all angles, and you know that that piece has encapsulated them in some way or the other. So my main thing for commission work started long time back, of course, but that client's call, when the client calls and says, "I love it." That's the finishing touch for me.
And
you know?
when they have an inaugural
Yes,
event
yes,
for
yes.
the
Piece.
for the premises,
Correct,
if I'm talking
correct,
about
yeah,
a project,
yeah.
and when they call you or they message you and they tell you that no, the entire project was very well appreciated, that is what gives you. You know, you work 2 years into a project, you work 3 years into a project, depending upon the magnitude, size, and complexity. And that is your few moments of happiness.
Absolutely, yes.
Which you attach to that project. I remember my own house. The last week or so, I refused to go there. I told my team, you will set up everything the way I've explained it to you. I want to walk in and I want to experience the thought
Being a
process
client.
that was in my mind.
Yeah.
So out there I was playing the architect and
Yes.
the client, you know. So I said, y'all are going to set everything up. I'm going to walk in once everything is done. I want my lighting set. I want my music playing. I want my air conditioning on. And I want to walk in like I'm walking into a perfectly finished space.
That's a beautiful
So
feeling.
that's how I would like to bring my clients in as well. So when we bring them in, it's all your senses are being totally encapsulated.
It does. The client's response makes a lot of difference. A lot of difference.
I think that's what satisfies the
Absolutely.
creative soul.
This small story, again, like you said, no, you walk in and all that. I did a sculpture for Suzlon, the windmill people.
Yes.
And they lost their director a couple of years back. And he was known as the windman of India.
Okay.
And they're very passionate about him. The other brothers are there. They're very passionate about him. They talk about him and all that. So I decided that the human form representing him has to be in the sculpture. And that wind should start from his heart. So I've actually taken it that way and then sort of denoted as to how the energy is green energy, comes from the earth, rises, and then sort of,
That sounds
sort of.
beautiful.
So, and their response to it was phenomenal. You say, how the hell did you manage to catch everything? You know, so that was superb for me, because then I knew that everything that they wanted to portray in the sculpture was there. And they did an inauguration and all that, and
Yeah, I'm sure.
100 people there, and it was fantastic, you know. So that response from the client is very essential, very essential.
I think that's a beautiful thought to wrap this conversation up on. Thank you, Zarir. Thank you, Arzan, for joining us.
Thank you. Most
And
welcome.
thank you for tuning in.